This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
It's going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
And welcome to the WWE Podcast Week in Review. It is Sunday, January 15th, 2023. Just 2 weeks until the Royal Rumble. Now, actually, less than 2 weeks, as pay-per-views, i.e. premium live events, have now designated a home on Saturday. So really 13 days, a week and 6 days until the Royal Rumble. How quickly it is approaching. And we've got some confirmed matchups. We've got more confirmed Royal Rumble entrants. Still, favorites of the Rumble have not changed for me, given the declarations of those who have said they are entering the Rumble. As always, you can declare it or you can have a match for it, and it's just no consistency. However, there are some very interesting entrants and possible dark horses. As we get closer to our Royal Rumble preview, we will be, of course, letting you know what our final thoughts are in the end of the following week. So in about 12 days, 11, 12 days, we'll be dropping our official Royal Rumble preview, and Ashley Mann will be joining me for that show. So really excited to bring her back on and give her a platform to tell us what she thinks, but she has her own platform too. If you want to check her out, she's on the podcast called Kick Ash Podcast. Check it out. So you guys know I always plug my ad-free on Patreon, my ad-free subscriptions on Patreon and Apple Podcasts. But specifically, I'm plugging Apple Podcasts this week because starting next Saturday, it's the week of the Royal Rumble. Starting next Saturday, there will be a price increase from 99 cents to $2.99. That'll include all of our ad-free shows as always. And if you want to get in on the 99-cent deal or $10 for the whole year, do it now and lock in your price. Those of you who are doing ad-free experience on Apple Podcasts, your price is not going to increase, which is why I'm telling you to get in now before the price goes up next Saturday. So on the 21st of January, the price is going to be going up to $2.99 a month. So while it's 99 cents, guys, get yourself in and lock in the price, or even better, go for the whole year and get 2 months for free because the yearly price is also increasing. So just a little bit of a heads up. If you're kind of on the fence about, I don't know, it's time to do it now before the price increase for WrestleMania season takes over and, then you wish you had done it. So Apple Podcasts listeners, I know most of you that listen are on Apple Podcasts. Now is the time to lock in your price. You've got 6 days before it goes up. So there you go. All right, let's get into the week in review. Has a lot happened this week. The biggest thing in my mind is the last thing in my mind, and that is Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. And that matchup took place on the main event of SmackDown this past week. Really good match. Does that even need to be said anymore for matches that include Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens? These two have had countless matches. Nearly all of them have been good to excellent. This was no exception. Of course, they got the "This is awesome" chants. It wasn't their longest match. I think it went about 12 minutes or so before the interference from the Bloodline, which Sami was told earlier in the night were not there. And Paul told Sami he had to, out of love from Roman Reigns, do this on his own. And yet then he was quote unquote helped out by the Bloodline that really attacked at an odd time. The Bloodline attacked at a time where Sami Zayn had the match in control and was presumably about to go for the hell of a kick. And I'm being facetious. I'm just saying it the way it's spelled right. The haluva kick. He was going for it. And that's when Solo and the Usos attack KO when he was about to hit his finish. So the psychology behind that move is very interesting. You could see it where Sami was about to get stunned. And maybe it was 1, 2, and then Solo pulls the referee out, and it was all a ruse that the Bloodline was there all along. But this is when Sami had the match in control. He was about to take out Kevin Owens. And thinking about this, it's taken me some time to go, well, why did they do that? It's, I think, because Sami, or that Roman Reigns didn't want Sami to get the victory because that victory is slated for Roman Reigns, and that Roman is feeling threatened by Sami. If Sami can take out the threat of Kevin Owens, then Roman Reigns has nothing left to prove. Roman wants to take credit for taking out Kevin. He doesn't want Sami to do it. So he sent his troops to take out Kevin to cause a DQ loss for Sami. And you could see it on Sami's face, right? You saw it on Sami's face. He was confused and annoyed. And they kept saying to Sami on, off mic, this is for the bloodline, brother, bloodline, oos. And Sami hesitantly joined them in the holding the finger up in the air. He did not join them, very notably, in the post-match beatdown of Kevin. He was an observer. He was sitting on the sidelines watching, but he did not participate in the beatdown of Kevin Owens. And he looked annoyed and more, I think, convincingly and more importantly, confused and really concerned for Kevin Owens. There was a little bit of concern on the face of Sami. The subtle just emotion that Sami has been able to put through on camera, not cartoonishly, not in a way that is quote unquote wrestling storyline, but in a believable way where these two are actually friends in real life and everyone knows it. The genuine concern on the face of Sami was a realistic version of what you would see on someone's face in like real life. And that's what makes this so captivating, as well as Sami's just subtle, realistic emotions that he's been able to push through and not go for the tempting, over-the-top emotion that is pro wrestling a lot of times. So the beatdown of Kevin Owens was brutal. Solo Sikoa ended it with a splash through the announce table. The Usos, of course, joined in, and they all put their fingers in the air as we the ones, you the twos, kind of the thing that they've done 40 million times before to end a show. Somebody out there, I'm sure, has a statistic that shows us how many times the Bloodline have gone off the air, whether it's on Raw, on SmackDown, or on a pay-per-view, with the fireworks going off or the cameras just fading to black, with them holding up the titles with Roman or just holding up the ones. How many times? I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. Again, I don't know if that's a complaint, more of just an observation. So, I thought this was good. I actually was wrong in the prediction of this match. I was of the belief that Sami was going to lose, but lose in a way that angered Roman because he said he was going to take care of Kevin. And that's what I thought. Sami was going to lose and lose clean. And then the announcers frame the next page or next chapter of this as, how is Roman going to react? So they set this up nicely. It was a different finish than I thought. Also, a couple of notable things with Sami Zayn. Not only did Paul Heyman lie to his face and just betray his trust. And I love how he calls him Shmuley. That's so funny. I mean, Jewish. Yeah, I love it. That kind of thing. And then Paul Heyman, when Sami walks away after he knew he lied to his face, the look that Paul Heyman gave was very telling. Not only did he get, the betray the trust of Sami Zayn, and then if you notice, week after week, Sami continues to have to knock on the door of the Bloodline, a group that he claims that he's a member of. You shouldn't have to knock on the door of a group that you belong to, yet he's the only one that has to constantly knock on the door. That's also another thing. I mean, this is clearly headed, right, guys, to the conclusion that we all know is happening. It's just fun to watch it break down. And the twists and turns that we watch now to get there are fun. Because you know it's coming. You know that the breakdown isn't going to happen at a SmackDown or a Raw. You know that the big blow-off, the big collapse of Sami Zayn and the Bloodline is happening at a major pay-per-view. And whether it's at Royal Rumble, whether it's at Elimination Chamber, or whether it's even at WrestleMania, this is happening. And my prediction is that a massive, massive crack happens at the Rumble, but the true brutal beatdown of Sami Zayn by the Bloodline isn't going to take place perhaps until the Elimination Chamber. Like I think it should be on a massive stage because that is what we all know is coming. So you wouldn't, there's an argument to be made to be put it on Fox. Fox often is the place where you have returns or pay-per-view quality matches, right? SmackDown seems to be the place to be on a weekly basis. So there's an argument to be made, and I wouldn't hate it if it's on network television with the big blow-off, but that's really set for the stage of a pay-per-view. That's why I'm thinking something like that, a massive shift in the story is going to happen at a pay-per-view. So, and you could have it at the Rumble. Sami Zayn is on the list of the top 5 to win the Royal Rumble in betting odds. So Sami Zayn could win the Rumble, and then you have him tell the Bloodline or tell Roman Reigns, hey, don't worry, I'm going to lay down for you at WrestleMania. No worries. We locked up this spot. You don't have to worry about it and all that. However, there's a million other ways to do it. You guys in the mailbag every week are mind-bendingly good at telling me different scenarios. You're showing me different ways that this could all play out. Rumble into Mania, into Elimination Chamber. With The Rock, is he there? What about Bray Wyatt? What about Seth Rollins? Could he come back? What about Cody Rhodes, favored to win the Rumble? How does that work? Guys, I honestly don't even want to spend too much time speculating about it anymore because my mind hurts thinking about the possibilities. There's that many. And I really want to just wait until the Rumble concludes until we see what is more likely to happen. We won't get all the answers at the Rumble. We're certainly not going to get all the answers at the Rumble because the Rumble is just one step of several big steps that we have to get through to find out the final card of WrestleMania. And then, of course, even if I had the final card of WrestleMania in front of me, you don't even have all the answers there. Because if I were to just see, here's the card, and, I see, say, Rock versus Roman, and then I see, Seth versus Cody. Well, where's Sami Zayn? Is he teaming with Kevin to take out the Usos and beat the Usos? What if he's not on the card and he's just still with the Bloodline? There's still that possibility that Sami Zayn is with the Bloodline. We're all assuming it's going to collapse, and I think it will. But what if this storyline goes past WrestleMania? And say Sami Zayn accidentally costs Roman Reigns the championship at WrestleMania. There's another possibility no one's ever said, but unlikely, but in the realm of possibility. So, guys, this is honestly, we could spend so much time in speculative territory that it hurts my head to think about. I'm sure it hurts yours. And I want to, move on at this point because once we get into the Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn and all of that possibilities, it's overwhelming. It really is overwhelming. And honestly, Triple H and company, for as long as they're in charge of creative and Vince doesn't force his hand back, it's a good problem to have that you have so many options, right? Like it's not a one clear-cut path to the WrestleMania event, that you have so many options. At the same time, if you're a pessimist, you look at it and go, yeah, but there's so many options. And then if you do one, you're always going to wonder what happened with the other. And if you did this, would it have been better than this? So sometimes too many options can be paralysis of analysis. I digress. Let's move on before I get my mind in a bend here. So beyond this, of course, on SmackDown, we got a little bit of a tease. And I put this in the title of the show because I haven't heard too many people talk about this, but I think we got a hint at something this past week with Raquel Rodriguez specifically. And while she's been a nice addition to the women's division, a really nice addition, and Ronda Rousey and her had a much better match on SmackDown a couple weeks ago that led to Charlotte Flair coming back and winning the championship, she hinted at a potential heel turn this week. And when she was backstage with the girls of Emma and I honestly don't know who the other girl was, tall, pretty girl. I can't remember. They might probably mention her name. I missed it. And she was backstage and Liv was telling the women, hey, I'm going to, be in number one. I want to prove I can beat all 29 other women. And the women were making fun of her. Like, why would you not want to be 30? It ups your odds. And Raquel chimed in and said, for someone of your stature, of your size, wouldn't you want to make the odds in your favor, right? Making fun of how small she is? And that's when Liv slapped her and she challenged Raquel to a match. And then they had a pretty decent match that ended with Raquel toying with Liv in a heel kind of way, inviting her back into the ring, just kind of messing with her, not taking her too serious. And then she eventually had to put her away and stop playing with her food. And she did. And she put her away with the Tejada Bomb. and Raquel Rodriguez gets the victory. But it's possible here that this was not just a filler backstage segment for Raquel. It was more of a heel. Like, heels or babyfaces don't act like that. Babyfaces don't tear down somebody because of their size, challenge them, toy with them in the middle of the match. You know, that's not babyface-ish. So I'm going to chalk this up to keep an eye on it, put a pin in it, and if I see a pattern, we need to be aware that this could be a possibility of Raquel turning heel. And the reason I also say that too is, you know, they could be positioning Raquel in a heel role for a Charlotte matchup at some point. If they're going to continue down the road of Charlotte Flair as a babyface, and it seems that that's the road they're going, after Ronda Rousey and after the just kind of bump in the road of Sonya Deville, they have nowhere to really go as far as heels go to challenge Charlotte. So, I mean, what are you going to do? Xia Li? I got more, my God, Xia Li is an embarrassment at this point. And I don't mean that from an in-ring work perspective. I mean that from a character perspective. I'll talk about her match in a minute too. But with Charlotte, again, after WrestleMania, you kind of need to think just past WrestleMania as well, because WrestleMania, it's not like everything ends. Like, sometimes that's just the beginning of things. You know, that could be the conclusion for many programs, but more than often than not, we've seen, especially the last couple of WrestleManias, for the very first time, you see this person and this person have a match. So sometimes it's not the end, but just the beginning of programs. So Raquel Rodriguez, I think, would be a nice heel. You know, she could brag about, and she talked about how there's nobody bigger or stronger than her in the division. Again, heel work there. That's not babyface. You don't talk about how big and strong you are. So again, checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. A number of things she did that was very heel. So Raquel Rodriguez could be challenging Charlotte Flair for that SmackDown Women's Championship. It could be at WrestleMania in some kind of, triple threat match or what have you. But I would think it's preparing her for after WrestleMania. And isn't it nice when Ronda's not on TV? Some of you are out there are Ronda fans, and good for you. I mean, really, seriously, good for you. I don't mean that in a kind of condescending way. Like, if you like Ronda Rousey as a character, awesome. It's fine. Everybody has their preferences. But to me, given that I'm not a fan of Ronda Rousey on a lot of different levels, not seeing her on SmackDown is a breath of fresh air. She is an addition by subtraction. That is a perfect example of taking somebody off the show and somehow also adding to it at the same time by taking her out. It's such a freshening up. I mean, I do feel bad for Shayna Baszler, who was getting a little bit of the rub from Ronda Rousey, and I'm sure Ronda will be back and she'll probably enter the Rumble and all that. And then she actually may have an interaction with Ronda, or rather with Shayna Baszler and herself, where they have to fight each other because they're in the Rumble, and maybe the one's a little speculative of the other and one eliminates the other. So that could happen. But I have to say, this past week, it is just so nice not seeing her on the show. She's just a vacuum, a charismatic vacuum, as CM Punk once described Kevin Nash. I forget the exact words, a charisma vacuum or something. Just sucks all of the energy and life and charisma out of the room. That's kind of the way I felt about Ronda Rousey for a long time now. And I know she returned at last year's Royal Rumble, and she'll probably, again, be a competitor this year, but don't forget, too, guys, Raw 30. They finally promoted it. Raw is XXX. A little suggestive, right? But Raw is 30. And it's going to take place in Philadelphia. I believe I have a correspondent there that we're going to discuss the live in-person perspective of Raw 30 that's taking place a week from tomorrow. I imagine it's going to be a massive, massive show. It is the Raw before the Rumble. So it's the go-home show on top of Raw 30, on top of it being in a massive market of Philadelphia. And you have the formula, you have the ingredients for a massive show that could lead to some big returns. Maybe Edge. All right, there's one. Maybe we don't have to wait till Royal Rumble to have Edge return. It could be an Edge taking out the Judgment Day and challenging Finn to a Hell in a Cell match. Or wait, no, that's at WrestleMania, right? Some people have said, or I've heard Edge versus Finn at inside Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania. But Edge could return, and that's possible. Or you could have Beth Phoenix return. There's a lot of different possibilities. Either way, it's shaping up from an on-paper perspective, for all the reasons I just listed, of being a big show. I mean, think about what they did for Raw 25. You had Stone Cold come out opened the show. Well, Vince opened the show, accepted an award, said it was all him. Austin comes out in the Brooklyn, the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, and stuns Shane, stuns Vince, beer, stunner. It was a beautiful moment. I mean, I was there in person. It was so awesome. So you could have something like that where maybe Austin comes out. I don't want to start any rumors. I'm not trying to. It's one of those kinds of shows, though, given the market, given this platform, given it's a go-home show to one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year, and you've got all the stars aligning for big returns that could lead to WrestleMania implications. So something to think about. Also, notably, in the promotion for Raw 30 is Vince's voice. If you heard that. Now, I know they're not trying to erase Vince McMahon completely from WWE like he's Chris Benoit, but for them to prominently put Vince's voice on there, welcome to Monday Night Raw. We all heard it. It's interesting, given everything going on, that Vince's voice is on there. Just something to note. And while we're on the topic of Vince, we still don't know if WWE is being sold. It may never be sold. The rumors of it going private started a week and a half ago. They sold it to Saudi Arabia, the Public Investment Fund. Oh, no, Comcast is going to buy it. Oh, wait, no, AEW could buy it. Oh, wait, no. This is just kind of the news cycle, guys. This is just the way things roll. And sometimes people will put things out there for clickbait or for likes or for whatever. And I'm still sitting back taking the relaxed approach of the wait and see approach of give me real news, not prognostication, not predictions. What's real? What's real? That's what I'm after right now. And it's fun to speculate and all that. And people losing their minds of Saudi Arabia buying it. There goes the women's division. That's why Stephanie left. All of this is speculative. And until I get hard evidence, hard facts, I don't want to speculate on this as much as it's fun to discuss. That being said, there is an argument to be made that Vince McMahon is not trying to sell the company, but to try to get everything he lost back. That does seem like the Vince McMahon way. And given, as I said, factually, Vince McMahon is on the board of directors. And factually, he is the majority shareholder in WWE. That's facts. That happened. That's real. That knowing Vince McMahon, as we all do from a distance, that it seems likely that, while the reports have come out that Vince is back to oversee a sale and get credit for the sale and all that kind of thing, or maybe whoever the potential buyers were and wanted Vince, required Vince as part of the deal to purchase, to make the sale and all that. Doesn't it seem equally as likely, given Vince McMahon's personality, given Vince McMahon's temperament that we all know, again, from a distance and from what people say and from what we've seen, that he would want to reclaim everything he lost and redeem himself? Doesn't that seem equally as likely, given his ego? I would say yes, because while we're all assuming he's going to purchase or sell the company, wouldn't he also want to get back to where he was and prove everyone wrong and give a middle finger to everyone who thought he was gone forever and do things his way and have him write the chapter of his book, the last chapter of his book? Doesn't that seem a little bit more Vince McMahon-ish than he just coming back to, I'm selling off everything I worked for, collecting my millions? I don't think money means that much to Vince McMahon as it does to mend his ego, to write the last chapter of his book. That, to me, is more Vince than money. Money is important, no doubt. But when you look at Vince that has enough money that it doesn't really matter anymore, he's a certified billionaire. To me, getting back things that are intangibles, kind of mending and fixing his image, reclaiming creative, as much as all of us don't want to see that, and getting back to exactly the place he was where people thought he was gone, that just, to me, seems more Vince. That seems more Vince than just coming back to sell off his creation. So, because that would be very money-driven. Sure, there's a little ego involved there, but that's primarily a monetary benefit. Instead of coming back and reclaiming it all. The redemption story of Vince McMahon as he's making himself the hero in his own story. So think about that. While we're all sitting here speculating that he is going to oversee the sale, oh my God, Saudi Arabia, blah, blah, all these people that could buy Comcast, Disney. I've heard it all. What about the opposite? He's here to put himself on the board. Look what he did. He already put himself there. We're already seeing it. Some of the board members already left. He forced them out. And now that's step one. Step two is reclaim creative control. Get back to the chairman, CEO of WWE, maybe co-chairman with Nick Khan, and then get back to exactly where he was, sitting in Gorilla. Again, that seems more likely than any other scenario, given the temperament and person that we know Vince McMahon is. So, something to chew on. All right, so let's get back to the actual in-ring action from this past week. We saw, I'll get to Raw as I said, or I didn't say yet, but I will get to it on the back end of the show. But let's see, we got the Intercontinental Championship, Gunther versus Braun Strowman. And I have to say, two things I was very happy about. Number one, that they put this at the beginning of the show. Why? Because that told you immediately that the title's not changing hands. Now, I'm sure you could provide examples of title matches that were at the beginning of shows in which the title changed hands, but you can't deny that's more the exception than the rule. More often than not, when title matches open a show and they're early in the show, it's a very high percentage of times, or a very high percentage of champions retaining in the times that it happens. So I was very encouraged by this. Number two, it was a better match than I expected. And give Braun Strowman credit. As much as I don't like his character and all his monster voices that he does that are cartoonish and silly, and the Strowman Express nonsense and the choo-choo trains and all that, I can't stand that crap. Braun Strowman held his own, and he is in amazing shape given his size and how much weight he has lost. Go back to when he was in the Wyatt family. Look at how big he probably lost a good 70, 80 pounds. I mean, he put his ass to work to trim down. So I give him credit for that. And in this match, he really brought it. You know, like he sold, he was physical. He didn't try to do too much where he was trying to prove he can act like the quote unquote smaller guys when he has no business trying to do that anyway. And it was just a nice physical match in which Braun Strowman held his own. And I really enjoyed this match a lot. And is it a match of the year contender? No, but it's arguably one of the best matches on this show for this particular SmackDown. I think that's fair to say. This was a really good match. And Gunther, of course, holds up his own. And what I really liked about this, too, there's really nothing bad to say about this, is that Gunther beat Strowman clean. No hanky-panky, no foot on the ropes, no foreign objects, no Imperium. He beat him clean. That's what I love. And it's clearly setting up for a Gunther versus probably Lashley. There's a possibility, or Gunther versus John Cena. Unlikely, more Gunther and Austin Theory, Austin Theory and John Cena. But Gunther is setting himself up for a big WrestleMania. And he also entered the Rumble here. He entered the Rumble, and I think there's something to be said for that, where he could be also an argument to be made for the Final Four. Gunther is going to be a massive player heading into WrestleMania, and I believe you could pretty much bring this to the bank that he's not going to lose the IC Championship before WrestleMania. He may not even lose it at WrestleMania. To me, WrestleMania should be his homecoming, or his coming out party, really, where he retains at WrestleMania, and he's not just giving it to someone else. Gunther's the guy that you would want to retain at WrestleMania because you're trying to build new stars. And Gunther's well on the path to that. So he's not an older guy that has the belt that's fun to watch, but he's at the end of his career. No. Gunther is the guy that you want to keep or win at WrestleMania. So I think we could see a much longer run with Gunther. We'll have to see who his opponent is, though. The only little fly in the ointment here is, with this match, that we had Braun Strowman not exactly take the powerbomb in the best flat back bump way. Okay, the finish was a little bit, I don't want to say lazy, a little bit, I guess, not polished from a bump perspective of taking the powerbomb from Gunther. And a very smart way to do the powerbomb, so you don't have to do, 3/4 of the move of having Braun Strowman jump and then try to stable himself and all. No, you just have him already up on the ropes and you just powerbomb him that way. Cool with me. Made sense. Yeah, but that's the only fly in the ointment. However, Braun Strowman is 330 pounds. And how often has he taken that bump before? Probably count on one hand how many times he's taken a flat back bump from a powerbomb, right? So I can't give too much crap on that, but if you're going to try to point to something, that would be one of the spots in the match that you were like, especially with it being the finish. That's the only thing. Other than that, really good match. I'd give it like a B+. Really good. So, all right. Let's see. I'm reading some of the notes here on the show. As I realized, and I don't know how I missed this, and I can't believe none of you guys have, because you guys are actually smarter than me when it comes to details. I'm not trying to backtrack, but this is an important fact. That the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, we still call it pay-per-views here, guys. It's a safe space to call pay-per-views, okay? It's much more fun to say pay-per-view. That pay-per-view takes place, guess where? Sami Zayn's hometown, Montreal. So this split of Roman and Sami may be a little bit sooner than we think, as Reigns versus Sami Zayn is rumored for Elimination Chamber. Think about it. Or he could be one of the men in the chamber, who knows? But given that Sami Zayn is going to be a massive babyface, he already is a babyface in a heel group and one of the bigger babyfaces in general on the roster. Put him on a pay-per-view in a title match in his hometown against the guy that has been treating him like crap. And Sami Zayn's going to be like, this second returning of Christ. When it comes to this crowd, it's going to be an explosion of a reaction. So think about that. Another thing to chew on. This could explode and disintegrate quicker than we think, at least when it comes to Sami and Roman. Of course, the rest of the bloodline isn't going anywhere. They are a solidified unit. So fun times coming. All right. Karrion Kross then choked out Rey Mysterio with the cross jacket. And he provoked Mysterio, talking about his family, saying that he wasn't there for Dominic. And he was mad that Dominic didn't turn into him. And what kind of father are you? And all this kind of thing. The one thing also with Rey Mysterio's promo is that he said that from a father's perspective, he's very hurt by the way Dominic has been acting. But as a man, he's saying they blocked it out on Hulu. But I would imagine he said it's BS, but actually saying BS. So that's a character shift for Ray. It's telling of where he's at mentally with Dom. He's about to crack and attack Dom. And you can guarantee at the Rumble, these two will have an interaction in the Rumble. I know Karrion Kross and Ray are going to have a match, but the match is happening the night before the Rumble. So that program will be finished before we get to the Rumble, at which point we can just shift into Dominic versus Ray. And they will have an interaction at the Rumble. Perhaps Ray eliminating Dom and then Dom eliminating Ray and beating him down into a complete... they need to include blood in this program, please. I mean, even if it's a blood capsule, if you don't want to go the hard way and Blade or whatever, can we add a little blood here? Sometimes blood can do magical things for a program. And that to me would be what the tipping point, the snapping point for Ray is. This is no longer my son, right? You are no longer my son. I lost my son a long time ago. Now I'm just a man, right? That is where they're going to go. I believe that's what's going to happen, is these two cross paths in a big way at the Rumble. And, of course, we'll see people who are already eliminated be able to eliminate people who are in the match, which is just preposterous, and how there's no time limit to get in the ring for the Rumble. I mean, look, we all love the Rumble, and I complain about this every year, but it's so egregious that you can enter a match, but not be required to enter the ring to compete in the match. And just essentially you could sit at ringside, hide under the ring, and wait for everyone else to beat each other up and then fly into the ring when it's, the moment presents itself and throw the last person out and you win the Rumble. How is there not a time limit for you to enter the ring? There should be. And people who are already left or who have already been eliminated, how can they, even if they come in, say I eliminate you from the Rumble. Okay, you're out. I'm still in there. Now you get angry. The referees try to stop you, but you come back in the ring and throw me over the top rope. Okay, well, I went over the top rope, but it's from somebody who's already eliminated in the match. That doesn't work. I know that they don't ever address the time thing in getting in the ring or with people who are already eliminated, eliminating people who are still valid competitors in the match. But those two things have always just like chapped my backside every year, and they do it every year. Okay, back to positive stuff here. Liv Morgan again and Raquel Rodriguez, I already went over. Tegan Nox and Xia Li. Okay, I was going to say positive things. Okay. Tegan Nox beats Xia Li after hitting the shiniest wizard. And the match was short. Okay. But even more concerning than that is Xia Li. Okay, Tegan Nox has gotten next to no character development upon returning. Like next to nothing. It's a little concerning. She's nowhere near the focus of the women's division right now. She's just kind of there to fill a spot. However, she did get the victory over Xia Li. Xia Li's even more concerning because I don't think they know what the hell to do with her. Now, I like Xia Li's new look this week with the braids and all that. She's trying to change something. They don't give either woman any promo time. Like they don't, meaning like any character development, no video packages, no even backstage, nothing. They don't give them much of anything. That's hard to develop a character when you give them nothing. It doesn't have to be a 10-minute promo. It could just be 30 seconds. Tell us something. And these two are very empty characters on SmackDown right now. And Xia Li's entrance also doesn't help. Now, they got rid of the Lightning. She's no longer Raiden from Mortal Kombat. Now she's one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I expect Master Splinter to accompany her to the ring next week. I mean, with all her hayas and Hatsuya, like all this ridiculous nonsense. It's, to me, almost embarrassing to watch her entrance. Like, I feel embarrassed watching her. Now, in the ring, great. She's a good-looking girl. She can go in the ring. Her entrance is embarrassing. I feel embarrassed. Do you not? If you're sitting there with a friend who's never watched wrestling and they watch Xia Li's entrance and she's sitting there with these these blades or, Michelangelo type of, swords or whatever, and she's like, hi-ya! And she's like doing these ridiculous martial arts moves that I don't even know if they're real martial arts moves. It looks like she's trying to parody a movie she saw, like a Bruce Lee movie. It's embarrassing. I can't even watch her entrance. That said, it's not irreversible, okay? Since people don't have a connection with her to begin with, there's nothing to really even pull from. There's nothing to pull the plug on. There's not much of anything there. She's the protector of what? Again, we don't know. Herself, I don't know. We don't know. But outside of that, that's the only thing we know about her. So if they just completely rebranded her, took her off TV for 3 weeks and rebranded her, it's totally doable. You're still working with a clean slate here. So I'm not saying to fire her or whatever, but this ain't working. Clearly. That's all I've got to say. All right. Valhalla, i.e. Sarah Logan, then prophesied the demise of Drew and Sheamus in a really nice vignette that the Viking Raiders did. Kind of Game of Thronesy, if you will. It had a Game of Thrones feel to it. And I don't mean that in as, they're copying Game of Thrones, what losers. No, Game of Thrones is a legendary TV series, arguably one of the best TV series of all time, arguably, guys. And this was season 7 or 8, whatever it was. The last half of that season of the last season was god-awful. That said, Sarah Logan, i.e. Valhalla, is doing a really nice job here. She feels like she belongs now. She feels like she has a place. She's still in the outdoorsy, woodsy, earthy type of character, but she has things to say now. I don't care if it's in an in-ring promo or if it's in a vignette. She's got things to say, and she spoke on behalf of the Viking Raiders and said that they, basically that they are next, right? That they are going to be destroyed, in so many words. And I like this. And the Viking Raiders have gone from anything you can do, I can do better with the Street Profits in high school gyms during the pandemic era to being a legitimately threatening team. So, cool. Adam Pearce then announced a tag team tournament to crown a number one contender for the Usos titles versus McIntyre and Sheamus. For the Usos titles, that was McIntyre and Sheamus versus the Viking Raiders. That'll be the first round of this said tag team tournament that's going to take place next week on SmackDown. I don't know how many rounds there are. I haven't seen brackets or anything. They just kind of like pulled it out of thin air and said, we're going to do a tournament. The first round's next week. Here are two teams, and I don't know how many rounds or how many other teams, but it's like, okay, fine. I'm not crapping on it. It's fine. I like tournaments, and I like McIntyre and Sheamus probably beating the Viking Raiders. I would think they're going to beat the Viking Raiders because McIntyre and Sheamus could be the ones to face the Usos. They seem to be the most believable team. I know they already faced them, but they seem to be still, as we stand now, the most believable team to face the Usos and beat them. So there's something to be said here. I'll have to see who the other teams are before I make a determination of probable winners. Bray Wyatt then cut another promo, as he does, sitting in his old rocking chair and going back to what he used to say in the Wyatt family of saying, Green Bay, we're here. What he used to do with the Wyatt family. And seeming to come to terms of what Uncle Howdy has said, that just revel in what you are. And that, you're going to see a dark side of me at the Rumble, speaking to, who is it? LA Knight. Speaking to LA Knight and the pitch black match and all that. And just hinting at the fact that he's tried to hold back. He's not going to anymore, but also alluding to the fact that he doesn't know who Uncle Howdy is. He kind of alluded to the fact that whoever you are. And so I don't know if Bray knows the identity of Uncle Howdy, but here are the, if you're going to bullet point the progress of the Bray Wyatt, but debacle, we now know he's going to revel in what he is, meaning he's not going to hold back his darkness anymore. And he's apparently doesn't know the identity of Uncle Howdy. So those are two things. And he, teased us with some of the Wyatt family jargon with the rocking chair and the we're here and that kind of thing. It was a short promo, which is fine. Short promo, to the point, not a lot of gobbledygook, right? That the LA Knight alluded to, which is so true. And I liked it. It was fine. It's progress. And the Rumble is going to be, as I think Bray Wyatt said, his rebirth. So I think we could see a new character of Bray come out at the Rumble, as if there's not already enough of them, between the Fiend and between Uncle Howdy and this quote unquote real version of Bray and the Swamp Cult leader and maybe this new rebirth character, whatever this is. I mean, there's the Rumble though. I have to say, the Rumble is going to be a very revealing pay-per-view on so many levels between the Bloodline Sami Zayn story, Cody Rhodes, which I'll get to in a minute, and the Bray Wyatt story. So we're going to see a massive steps forward in so many stories. The Rumble, guys, is going to be massive this year, not just for the Rumble match itself, but for these two massive stories of Bray and the Bloodline as well as other stuff on Raw. Now, cutting to, by the way, I was not sad, or I was sad that LA Knight was not on SmackDown. But Cody Rhodes, let's talk about Cody Rhodes for a minute, and I'm not going to talk about his babyface character. Y'all know how I feel about it, all right? That said, they are laying Cody Rhodes's return on us thick. I mean, they are laying it in thick when it comes to his return. I mean, obviously it's no secret, and they're not trying to pretend that it's a secret that he's coming back, but they are really heavily laying into this. And it's, it's fine. I really don't have a problem per se, but this seems to me, if you're not a Cody Rhodes fan to win the WWE Championship, you don't want him near it. That, unfortunately, the number of promos he's had and video packages that have been on Raw and SmackDown over the last several weeks now, like really about a month long, points to him in a massive title picture come WrestleMania. Like, you don't promote someone this much for a return to just have him fight for the U.S. title or in some grudge match with Seth. This points to WWE Universal Undisputed Heavyweight European Championship match at WrestleMania. If they keep the belts, as one, who knows? I just... Wade Barrett this week said that the winner of the Rumble for the men, they're going to get an opportunity at the undisputed WWE Universal Championship at WrestleMania. And it's like, okay, well, maybe that's a slip up, or maybe that's true that they're not splitting the belts. I don't know. But they are laying his return on thick, and they're not letting you forget about Cody Rhodes for a second. So, okay, what else here? Oh, Sonya Deville. Sonya Deville did not take no for an answer from Adam Pearce this week of getting her rematch for the women's championship, and she was not happy when Adam Pearce told her basically win the Rumble and you get another shot. So Sonya took things into her own hands, and she implemented the tried and true formula of getting a title match. What is that tried and true 100% accuracy of, or 100% chance of getting a title shot? Let's say it all together. Attack the champion. So she implemented this, and she's going to get rewarded with a title shot. I mean, it's not official, but she will. It never makes any sense. And in the past, I mean, this is not a new concept, but this one they're being more transparent about. This is one in which, okay, Sonya Deville was denied. Now Sonya, all she has to do is attack the champion. It's about as transparent as it gets when it comes. Well, the lack of logic is really stunning here, and it's not a formula they're ever going to pull away from. I don't like it. I never have. That you're rewarded with a title shot for attacking the champion. Now, I could see the champion wanting a match with you, but why, as a champion, would I put the belt on the line and reward you for your actions? No, it should be about just fighting, period. Non-title match, grudge match, no holds barred, whatever. But you get rewarded for attacking me from behind because I don't get my way with an opportunity at the very thing that you didn't earn yourself, that you had to, just take this method or go this way because you couldn't do it on your own. And it never makes any sense to me. It's a formula they've been using as long as I've been watching pro wrestling, and I don't like it. But Sonya Deville attacks Charlotte. They go back and forth backstage. Some nice bumps by both women. And it will eventually lead into a Charlotte-Sonya Deville rematch for the women's championship. That, of course, is going to end in Sonya Deville with her her back flat on the mat looking up at the lights. Or tapping out. One of those two is going to happen. No doubt. So it was fine. It just is here we go. Attack the champion, get your match. I mean, honestly, if that is such a tried and true 100% of the time you get what you want formula and strategy, why do you even have to win the Rumble? Just whoever the champion is, a month before the WrestleMania, just attack them and go, well, you want your revenge? Put your title on the line against me at WrestleMania. And they will. It's just, I don't know. Okay, moving on. All right, let's see. The Authority. Oh, so I think that pretty much covers it. I was looking at some of the notes here. I want to make sure as I cover SmackDown that I did cover everything. I think that pretty much. Oh, this is not about SmackDown, but Ric Flair, not Xia Li. They covered a little bit and did a quick promo for Ric Flair's documentary that they did on the WWE network on Peacock, and I watched it last night from cover to cover, metaphorically, and it was really well done. If you have not seen the Ric Flair documentary on the WWE network, do yourself a favor. I think it's like an hour and 15, hour and 20. It's so revealing of Ric Flair, and it's a sad documentary. It's inspiring, and it's very educational when it comes to Ric Flair's career. But it's also really kind of, I left feeling more sad for Rick and his family more specifically than I did going in. And while his career, I learned a lot about his WCW career and the friction between him and Bischoff suing him and, all that kind of stuff. This to me was a more sentimental documentary about the introspective personal life of Ric Flair or Richard Fleer. And it's very telling about what brought him down and what nearly killed him, and of course his son dying of an overdose. Reed, that broke his heart, and all of these things, and missing all these things that his family did, and his 4 marriages, and his insane attachment to alcohol, and all this stuff, and all the money he spent on trying to live the gimmick. He literally became Ric Flair. There was no separation between Richard Fleer, his real name, and Ric Flair. There was none. And he was Ric Flair. Richard Fleer is gone and has been gone for decades. So you talk about living the gimmick. Ric Flair lived the gimmick. He is truly Ric Flair. Guys, take a look at it. I really would recommend just dedicate some time to the Ric Flair documentary. It's even if you didn't watch Ric Flair in his prime, you're a newer, younger fan, you learn so much about Ric Flair and what the really kind of old school wrestling was, and the different territories and all that kind of thing. And I'll leave it at that. All right. Okay, so that's SmackDown. We'll briefly go through Raw and then wrap things up here, guys. Raw, let's go through it. Just the results anyway. Judgment Day took out the OC when Finn Balor rolled up Luke Gallows. That brought out Cedric and Shelton because earlier in the night, MVP talked to Lashley about a full reunion of the Hurt Business. That was also promoted on SmackDown, as we will see. We will see an evolution and eventual reuniting of the Hurt Business, probably to go against the Bloodline. They need a new group to oppose them. They're not going to win. I mean, the odds of Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander taking out the Usos for the tag titles, for example, are next to nothing. Bobby Lashley beating Roman Reigns to end his streak is next to nothing, but they're at least a formidable group. It's a different program. That's really why they're being brought back together. That's fine. Judgment Day then also beat Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin via pinfall after Balor hit Alexander with the coup de grace. That led to the Alpha Academy as the 4th team. This is a tag team turmoil match, guys. The 4th team in the match, Judgment Day beat Alpha Academy, as always happens, because Alpha Academy doesn't win anything. And we had Balor get medically disqualified, and that brought Mysterio in to be Priest's new partner. And then in the final program, the final match of this gauntlet, tag team gauntlet, was the Judgment Day beating the Street Profits when Dominic Mysterio pinned Montez forward with a roll-up while his feet were on the ropes. This was a very good match to end Raw. Very good, especially the Street Profits and Judgment Day. That was the Street Profits' best match in a year. It felt like the crowd was super into it. Montez Ford was getting a massive reaction. But how many times have we seen the Judgment Day, specifically Dominic Mysterio, squeak out a victory like the little sly snake that he is, and the heat continues to build for the Judgment Day. Continues and continues and continues to build. It's brilliant. It makes me so angry at the Judgment Day in a good way. And Dominic, of course, just brilliant in his role of being this hardened criminal from jail that he spent 3 hours in a county jail for, making up stories, wearing the handkerchief, trying to play this badass like he, was just a completely changed person. And, it's just, great. Kevin Owens took out Baron Corbin after a stunner. That was the JBL in Corbin and that whole program that opened Raw with JBL and Kevin Owens sparring on the mic. Alexa Bliss promo was interrupted by Uncle Howdy. Bliss called herself the face of evil, and Uncle Howdy appeared on screen asking, quote, "Do you feel in control?" But Howdy came out, just walked up the ramp, didn't do anything else. Bayley took out Michin with a backslide, or Mia Yim, depending on how you pronounce it, and Bayley got another victory. But again, no one cares. I know the Damage Control attacked Michin backstage after the show, or later in the show, but I went in this in depth on the mailbag. No one seems to really be invested emotionally in what Bayley and Damage Control are doing right now. It's odd. Bobby Lashley returned to attack Austin Theory. He was on a, quote, suspension from attacking referees and officials, and Lashley took out Theory, presumably Lashley being the next opponent for Theory for the U.S. title, which is fine. But I think Theory's holding onto that belt for quite a while. Rhea Ripley took out Candice LeRae after hitting Riptide. Solo Sikoa beat Dolph Ziggler with a Samoan spike. And that pretty much did it, guys, for Monday Night Raw. Again, we are now going to build and build and build to the Rumble. Things are on a nice roll, a lot of heel heat. That's what you want. Great storylines with the Bloodline. Bray Wyatt's pitch black match is going to be very interesting to see exactly what that means. But all right, I think that concludes my week in review, everybody. And again, one last reminder, 6 days until the price goes up on Apple Podcasts to $2.99 a month. So if you want to get on board, lock in 99 cents a month, or lock in the entire year. Lock in the entire year, guys, for $10, because it's going up to $30 for the entire year, which is still 2 months for free. But things are going up for WrestleMania season, so I really encourage you, if you've been on the fence, get your ad-free subscription in now on Apple Podcasts for less than $1 a month. So I'd encourage you to do that, because on Saturday, January 21st, things are a-changing. So everybody, thank you so much for listening. I'll be back tomorrow with Anthony DeMarco as we cover the current state of WWE, as we will be a week and change away from the Royal Rumble. Until then, guys, take care. I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.